Welcome to the Bros Talking Soccer podcast, where three brothers usually chat about what's happening in American and European soccer. My name is Dave Knittel, the oldest Knittel brother, and today we're talking about World Cup. It is day 5 of the World Cup. It is Tuesday, June 11th, and I am joined by our friend Matt Lefler. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for asking, man.
All right, and we have our levels much better, so hopefully people watching on YouTube will enjoy that more. And people on the podcast, you probably don't even know what we're talking about because I fixed the audio, or at least tried to. So yeah, but we're fixed, we're ready to go, and we're ready to talk about what happened day 5, right, Matt?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, before we do that, I wanted to give a quick mention. We are a part of the Big Heads Media Network. They have over 40 different podcasts for you to check out about sports, about movies, about psychology, and all kinds of stuff. So you want to check them out for your podcasting needs. And then we are also a part of StadiumScene.tv. It's a network that has all kinds of sports content. It has tons of soccer content, soccer podcasts, soccer blogs, soccer YouTube channels, but also has other content. So basketball, baseball, I'm trying to think of other sports. My life revolves around soccer, but if yours doesn't, they have tons of other awesome podcasts and content to check out. So check them out at StadiumScene.tv. Let's get to the matches. So first up, kicking things off this morning, we had Netherlands taking on New Zealand, and in a dramatic fashion, the Netherlands ended up prevailing 1-0. So Netherlands came out in a 4-5-1 and Netherlands was in a 4-3-3. New Zealand was in a 4-5-1. Did I say Netherlands twice there?
Yes,
can't remember. Yeah,
okay.
New Zealand was in a 4-5-1. Netherlands was in a 4-3-3. Matt, coming into the game and just first half thoughts. What did you think about the match overall?
I thought it was the best match of the World Cup so far. I was really impressed with how it came off. It was definitely worth waking up at 6 a.m. To hear that one or to watch that one. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, so it definitely was an interesting sort of tactical battle throughout, where you had New Zealand very committed defensively and very organized, and you had Netherlands sort of poking and prodding and trying to get the ball through. And I thought Netherlands did a good job of not falling into the trap that Japan and that Spain fell into with other teams that were sitting back. Netherlands was at least trying things. They were moving the ball pretty quickly. They were hitting kind of those long diagonals. They were trying to mix it up. And New Zealand was just doing a really good job of just being tough to break down. And New Zealand in their own right were zipping passes along. First kind of action that I noted in the first half was an 11th minute mistake by Bloodworth on the Netherlands, and she just basically dribbled the ball in at the top of her own box, just straight into New Zealand pressure. New Zealand created a turnover, and this is when Olivia hit the crossbar, and so she made a good cut and ended up curling it and off the crossbar, and that was a great chance. Unlucky from New Zealand, but it was a warning sign that Netherlands couldn't be too comfortable back there. Matt, any thoughts on this play?
I have to turn my phone off. My wife just called me.
Okay, no worries. Did you need to talk to her?
No, it's fine. I just
ignore
her. I'll send her a text in a minute. Say, hey.
All right.
I ignored my wife. That's such a great look. Anyway, no, that was a great play. It was pretty unexpected. It had been pretty routine up until then. It was it was nice to see New Zealand kind of getting forward a bit, because it had seemed pretty defensive. Like, I'm going to go back to the first minute of the match. And let me say, I've never seen the Netherlands play before, really. So I was excited to see what all the excitement was about. And then seeing Martins on the ball on the left wing in that first minute, just basically blow by a bunch of New Zealand defenders and just make them look, almost like they were on a schoolyard was really, really, really entertaining. So that set the tone for me. And I thought it was going to be a blowout. But then to see this play happen, it was like, oh no, wake up call for the Netherlands. And then that's when it's to me, that's when the game got real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Right then is kind of not a turning point, but it was kind of, hey, New Zealand, we're here to play as well. So you're not just going to run over us. So that's a really great call out. I was impressed with Martins early as well. I noted her. And then on the other side of the pitch, I was really impressed with Gregorius throughout the match, the center forward for New Zealand. She was a small center forward. She wasn't, the biggest out there, but she was active and she did a good job of hold up play. As a shorter player, you can get easily sort of pushed off the ball by bigger, stronger center backs, and the Netherlands center backs were definitely bigger than her. But I thought she did a great job of having that kind of typical center forward play from someone who doesn't have the prototypical kind of center forward makeup. So I was impressed with her play throughout. Any thoughts on Gregorius?
Oh, she was fantastic. I mean, I didn't know who she was. I knew who Rosie White was from watching her play in the NWSL. And she's fantastic. She's had some really great time with some of those player or some of those teams, namely, what is it, the Boston Breakers and the Chicago Red Stars. But Gregorius she was a treat. It sounds kind of contrite to say that, but she was really fun to watch.
Yeah, agreed on that one. 16th minute, I noted that the Netherlands forward. So the pregame hype, and a lot of people were hyping up how talented those front three were. The 16th minute, this was the first time where they started to kind of interchange positioning a little bit. Martins floated all the way across to the near side of the pitch, and then Miedema flew out to the left wing, and then Van de Senden came to the middle. And we didn't see it too much throughout the game, but they did it on a couple different occasions. And, they were trying to mix it up. I thought throughout the game, New Zealand really scrambled well defensively. And what I mean by that is Netherlands got into dangerous spots, but New Zealand was able to get back very quickly, and Netherlands wasn't taking perfect touches. I thought specifically Miedema throughout the game. And am I saying that correctly? Is that how you would say it?
I've heard it Miedema and Medema. They were saying it Medema in the broadcast.
Okay.
So yeah,
all right.
that's what
So
I was
I'm going to go with Medema. Okay, so Medema was getting into dangerous pockets, but she would take these little touches that were just ever so slightly off, and that would just kind of kill any sort of danger because New Zealand was scrambling back. And so when you're playing against a committed, bunkered side, you have to take perfect touches. And I'm being slightly harsh on her. She's 22, almost the country's leading goal scorer, 58 international goals, but I thought that she could have been better on the day. Matt, any thoughts on that one?
Well, that's the reality. That's what I noticed with her as well. I have it written down here that in the 21st minute, she takes a bad touch in front of goal and just kind of flounders with the ball at her feet. Her head's down the whole time. She doesn't really control it very well. And then basically misses like a likely goal scoring opportunity. And she did that a fair amount throughout the match and just slowed play down and let New Zealand set up. And it was like the only person who really got that you needed to increase your speed of play was Martins. And then she would cut inside and try a bunch of one-touch passing to kind of like open that can, that was the New Zealand defense. Is it Van de Senden? Is that how you say her name?
Yep, that's what I was going with.
She was there was a lot of hype on her before the match too. And she was great trying to get end line and like dribble at people, but New Zealand did a pretty good job of shutting her down as well. I was like, New Zealand clearly looked like the more technical side.
Netherlands was more technical.
Sorry, yeah, Netherlands was more technical.
The two ends are throwing both of us off.
Yeah, the Netherlands, the Dutch, the Netherlands was definitely the more technical side. And looked like they were more confident, except for Medema. Once she started making mistakes, it's like that kind of snowballed in her play.
That's a good point. Quicksand, replacements reference for all you replacements fans out there. I'm sure we have a lot of crossover with between the Women's World Cup and replacements fans. I thought, to your point there, I thought New Zealand throughout the match did a fantastic job, specifically the center backs, of having cover. So in soccer, you want to put pressure and then cover and then have balance. That's kind of the three defensive pillars when you're defending someone. And so pressure means you have a girl on the ball, you have someone who's covering and supporting that person who's putting pressure on the ball, and then you have balance on the other side of the pitch. And New Zealand always had a center back supporting the defender who was defending Martins and Van de Senden. I thought Martins still did an okay job of working opportunities and kind of, using that to her advantage to a certain extent. But Van de Senden, like you were saying there, Matt, didn't do a great job of that. And by having that kind of second defender there, it completely shut her down and she wasn't very effective throughout. So that's a really good call out there. 34th minute, New Zealand had a really good chance. This is after miscommunication between Miedema and Martins. They turn the ball over and New Zealand has a quick long ball out to Gregorius. She takes a fantastic touch, brings it into the middle to Rosie White, who takes one touch and then just hits a rocket of a shot. This is one of the best long-range shots we saw until the U.S. played later today that I can recall seeing in the World Cup. And Van Veenendaal had a really good save on that. But it was probably from like 30, 35 yards out. And so I wanted to shout her out. Any thoughts on this play?
Well, I actually had that written down as well. It's just that's what White does. She's always kind of that exciting surprise player that people I mean, people know how good she is. They know about her, but she's just sneaky, and she just arrives on the scene, and then she can, blast one at the net from like that. It's just, I've seen her do it a little bit in the NWSL too. She tends to come on as an impact sub. So to see her play most of a match like today was actually really cool.
Interesting. And then the last thing that I noted was there was a chance in the 45th minute where it's a broken kind of corner play for the Netherlands. Eventually, the ball gets worked to Miedema, who does well here, and she makes a nice cut. She drives to the end line, gets the ball back in front. The ball kind of deflects off of Martins, and Bloodworth, the Netherlands center back, is right there,
Right.
and she tries to. Well, she's a defender finish. Yep,
Right.
exactly. She's a defender finish, is what we call it. She tried to use her laces. She definitely should have used the inside part of her foot. It goes off completely the wrong direction. And Netherlands had have been kicking themselves for that. So that was the last thing I noted in the first half. Any other thoughts on the first half, Matt?
No, not really.
All right. Second half kicks off. I thought New Zealand. There we go. Did it again. New Zealand may have switched to a 4-4-2. It was something that they were doing, and I wasn't exactly sure if it was only in certain situations, but I thought it was interesting because in the first half, it was very much a 4-5-1. In the second half, it was kind of morphing between a 4-4-2, 4-5-1 throughout. So that was something interesting tactically. Matt, any thoughts on that one?
I did notice that they were pushing two attackers forward. Kind of at the same time and in line with each other. And sometimes when they would line up defensively, they would line up in like like straight lines of four and then have two out front. And it was like they were trying to push the Netherlands wide. So.
All right, so there you go. 52nd minute. That's the first kind of major note that I noted from the second half. And this was a fantastic save by Van Veenendaal again. So the ball is crossed by New Zealand, and it ends up going through, and it ends up getting collected and then crossed back across the face of goal. And Gregorius gets a touch onto the ball, but it's not clean contact. Even still, that ball is going into the net, and Van Veenendaal needs to scramble across her line, full outstretched save, and gets it off the line. But that was a fantastic chance by New Zealand. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was looking at the replay and I counted the steps that she took. She had to take two lateral steps to get there. I just love it when a keeper does that and has the presence of mind to still save that. Yeah, that was cool. That was, to me, that's just so you know what's coming up. That's going to be my save of the day. So.
All right, so that's good to know because I have a couple listed here. So I had that noted as one of them, but I came prepared in case you took some of them. So 60th minute is the next thing that I noted, and this was kind of the only and definitely the first time that I noted where Martins and really the whole Netherlands side really got out and had room to run. And so what happened here was Martins had a great move, and then she had a driving run and ended up playing a perfectly weighted ball in behind to Miedema, who then tried to square it to Van de Senden, and it ends up becoming kind of that pseudo shot set / cross, and it goes right by the post on the far post. But that was the first time that they really got out and started to run, and they looked exceptionally dangerous. And I didn't think Netherlands did that enough. But Matt, any thoughts on that play or anything you can recall from that?
Well, that was when both teams kind of decided to open up and really start going for goal. New Zealand was playing pretty expansively there as well. I forget who the color commentator was, but she was pointing out that both teams were really, pushing wide and really expanding. I I have in my notes the what is it? The Don't Fear the Reaper, the Will Ferrell thing on SNL. It's just like blow the space. That's what it was reminding me, because both teams were really expansive, and it gave the offenses. It gave them room to roam and to be effective and to get into dangerous positions.
Yeah, we didn't see that a lot during the match, but that was kind of something that we did see. Next kind of Netherlands save or Netherlands opportunity came in the 66th minute, and that's when Van de Zenden played an overlapping Van Lunteren, the outside back, and then she got forward and then ended up cutting it across to Miedema, who hit it first time, and this was a great save by Naylor. She didn't really have to react to it, and so it was more or less hit at her, but it was great positioning and a fantastic opportunity and one of Netherlands' best chances. So any thoughts on that play?
No, that was just the keeper being in the right place at the right time, reading the play well. That was a great foot save. People were saying how great her reaction speed was. She didn't react. The ball
Yeah.
just hit her foot.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that the commentators were saying. Oh, that was definitely save of the game, and I get it. I mean, she was in position. It was a
Mhm.
immense save, but again, I thought some of the other saves where the goalkeeper actually had to react were more impressive. And so, yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one. Then so there's a bunch of subs, but I did want to call out the specific. Netherlands subs because they're the three that ended up combining for the Netherlands goal. So 71st minute, Van S comes off and Van Dongen comes on, and that's at left back. And in the 76th, Groningen comes off and Roord comes on. And then 87th, Van de Senden comes off and Berenstain comes on. And the reason that I wanted to call all of them out is because 92nd minute, unless you have anything else you wanted to touch on in the second half, Matt.
The only thing this is going to be a complete non sequitur. When Wilkinson came on for New Zealand, I was trying to figure out where I'd seen her before. And so I was doing a little background research on her. She'd never played in the NWSL. It turns out that I had seen her on SEC women's soccer coverage on ESPN. So I thought that was pretty cool. So everybody talks about how, like maybe the college game doesn't do a lot to develop players. At least on the women's side, it's still helping to develop players worldwide. So
Yeah, that's a really great call out because we've seen in countless matches where so the tie striker in this last match came from UC Santa Barbara, I think, or she was definitely from an American university. And so many players on all these different national teams have ties to America through the college university system. So that's a really good call out there, Matt. Getting back to what I was saying before, so the subs came on for the Netherlands, and then 92nd minute, eventually the ball goes over the top to Miedema. And so again, for all the criticism we had of her, she did very well here to maintain possession. I think you could kind of argue that she sort of killed her chances initially by not taking the good touch, but she ended up keeping possession, and she drops it back to Van Dongen, the left back who had come on as a substitute, who I believe is technically a midfielder. So she was an offensive-minded substitute. She swings in across to Berenstain, who had come on for Van de Senden earlier, and she gets ahead to it and heads it back across the face of goal to Roord, who heads it in, and it's just right place, right time. It's not, the most glorious finish, but it's about getting results. And so it's a bit of a heartbreaker for New Zealand, but Netherlands gets that 92nd minute goal, dramatic fashion. Matt, any thoughts on the goal?
No, I mean, it felt like it had been coming. There was a stat put up where like near the 80th minute, the Netherlands had 68% of the possession, and you could kind of feel that possession starting to wear on New Zealand as the second half really, really, really wore on. I was impressed with both of these teams' fitness, especially New Zealand's because they had to chase the ball so much. But both teams looked pretty fresh, even approaching the end. It was unfortunate, but according to I hate saying stuff like this, but really, I sort of felt like the Netherlands deserved the win and deserved the goal. But yeah, so that's pretty much all. I don't really have any, in-depth analysis on it or anything, but yeah, you did a good job.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, I can go either way with the deserving because the
Sure.
New Zealand really did put in a fantastic defensive performance. And so, yeah, they weren't stout and didn't let passes through at all, but I thought they were covered so well. I thought that they were positioned so well defensively. And so, I could go either way as far as deserving. And so, ultimately, Netherlands is, on paper, the stronger side, and they get the result, and 3 points is all that matters. So props to them. Any other thoughts from this match before we move to Chile versus Sweden?
Just keeping in line with calling out players worldwide who've been developed in America. Partially, Rebecca Stott, the New Zealand center back, played for. I know she played for the Seattle Reign. I watched her for a couple seasons, and then I can't remember who else she played for. I think it was Sky Blue. Yeah, she did, and now she's playing in Norway. So it's pretty interesting how the women's game has so many opportunities for players to play professionally now, and then to continue their development. Before it was basically New Zealand could go to the A League in Australia, and that was it. And now it's greatly expanded. So
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's fantastic to watch all of that develop around the world, and it's just going to keep keep growing. So I'm excited to follow all of that. Moving to our second match of the day, we had Chile taking on Sweden. And so in this one, Chile came out in a 4-3-3 and Sweden was in a 4-3-3, but Chile kind of more or less played a 4-3-2-1, 4-4-1-1, or 4-5-1 kind of formation. At the end of the day, they had 4 defenders, absolutely. Then the midfield was kind of doing weird things. And, the further up the pitch that they got, the more kind of stretched they got. And as Sweden kind of came forward, they fell back more into a 4-5-1. It was kind of like that accordion kind of shape to a certain extent. But it was interesting. And I also thought that Chile pressed really high when they had opportunities to. And so I was really impressed with their performance overall when, Sweden definitely had pinned them back, and I was impressed with Sweden being able to pin them back. But when Chile got the ball out and Sweden had a little bit of possession in their own half, specifically closer to their goal, I thought that Chile did a really good job of being coordinated with their press. And because we've seen, like, maybe Jamaica was an example of this, where Jamaica pressed Brazil, but it wasn't coordinated, and it became just stretched and very easy for Brazil to play through them. Chile did make it tough for Sweden, so I wanted to call that out. Matt, your kind of overarching themes and things you saw from this match?
Well, it was just interesting watching Chile try to defend Brazil, try to defend Sweden. They did a good job. But it's always hard to kind of watch a team that's defending for its dear life. Sweden was clearly better. They were bigger. They were stronger. Oh, one thing that Chile had is they had more team speed, I thought, than Sweden. But Sweden was just so much better technically. And they were better. They were better going forward. Like, they had more ideas going forward. Whenever Chile kind of got an opportunity to go forward, they just kind of dumped it long to their center forward and hope something happened. And the balls were often like 15 yards away from her. So,
yeah. First kind of action that I noted, and this came in the 16th minute, and this was Sweden's best attack up until that point. And so it starts with a driving run by Sweden, but it all kind of started with possession at the goalkeeper. And so then the goalkeeper rolls it out, I believe, to Glass, the outside back. She makes a driving run forward and eventually combos with Jacobson or Rubinson. I wasn't exactly sure which of them. Matt, do you know the exact play I'm talking about? By chance? Okay.
No.
So she combines with either Jacobson or Rubinson, whoever the midfielder / winger is at that point, and keeps her run going, and then eventually lays the ball back off to Jacobson or Rubinson. So they play this 1-2, 1-2 action, and eventually crosses the ball low, and it ends up just being out of reach. But this was the first time where Sweden kind of got in behind and had a really dangerous chance. And so I wanted to highlight that. Any thoughts from this play? I know you said you don't remember it, but any
not from that play, but excuse me. The first half was more of a thing where it just seemed like Sweden's only idea was to get the ball close to the box and then serve the ball long into the box. And then their players were just simply supposed to out jump and out header the Chilean players, which worked to an extent, but they kept putting the balls over the crossbar. I have it noted here that I got tired of watching Sweden put balls over the crossbar. Now there had been a couple of shots from outside the box where they weren't really close. One was by Jakobsen as well, like you mentioned her, but yeah, that's about all.
Yeah, and I actually noted the same thing in the 44th minute. Black Stenius had a missed header, and at that point, she had missed 2 or 3 at that point. Another player was missing, and so yeah, I noted the exact same thing. They just weren't hitting the target. Coming back to maybe a little bit earlier, I thought Sweden's next big chance happened on a corner kick, and this came in the 26th minute. And before I talk about that specific play, I thought it was a really interesting strategy from Sweden on their corner kicks, where they loaded up 6 players in the box, and then they floated it into kind of around the box. And so the players were either standing still or running backwards away from goal. And they clearly had a height advantage. This actually worked to nullify their height advantage. And I didn't understand the strategy whatsoever. Matt, what did you think of that?
Well, I noted later in the game that so many of their crosses were kind of coming in too low. So they had a ridiculous height advantage, but they put the balls in places where the Chilean players could actually get heads on the balls to clear. And I was like, well, why don't you kick it higher?
Yeah, I actually noted the same thing, but I noted it from a different perspective. So I noted that they were driving the balls in low, But what they were doing is they were crossing it directly into kind of the 6-yard area where the Chilean defenders were. They needed
Right.
to, if they were going to cross it low, they needed to cut it back more towards the penalty spot or back out towards the 18, because they were doing a good job of driving to the end line. But then when they would play the cutback cross, they were cutting it right back into the Chilean defense, who was collapsing. There were gaps further back, but they weren't putting the crosses into the right area. So to your point, they either needed to get that ball higher or they needed to cut it back even more. So I noticed the exact same thing. 26th minute, again, getting back to what I was talking about before, this is probably the best save of the game. This is what's going to go down as my save of the day. But Sweden has a corner and they win it. They win it by who won the first one? Sembrant wins the first header, and then it deflects off of Fischer again, like within the 6-yard box. And so then Endler, the Chilean goalkeeper, has to make a save on her end line off of a deflected ball. And she had a fantastic game overall. She was very composed for Chile and did very well in this one. So I wanted to give her props there. Any thoughts on Endler?
Oh, she was insane. She was so good. Even like after the match, I know this is like way ahead of it, but after the match, she was the right person to keep her players up when they went down 1-0. Finally, she was there like pumping everybody up, and she's a pleasure to watch. I can tell why she's at PSG.
Got it. And the last thing I noted from the first half, 37th minute, there is a great ball out wide by either Segar or Rubinson. You know, I had trouble defending or seeing which player was which. And then it gets crossed into Rolfo, who hits a first touch right across the face of goal. She takes her first touch, great. And then her second touch is that low driven ball. And so, again, Segar or Rubinson floats the ball out wide. I'm not doing a great job of explaining this, but Segar or Rubinson floats the ball out wide, and Rolfo takes that touch where the ball lands as she's touching it, and it's just perfectly weighted first touch, gets it out in front of her body, and then she swings the cross in on her second touch. So it's good, quick play against a defensive team. And then it comes across the face of goal to Blackstenius, and Endler does a great job of coming out and kind of making life difficult, but Blackstenius just puts the ball over, and she needs to hit the target there.
That's the thing. Like when they finally subbed her off, I was like, yeah, that needs to happen. Blackstenius had numerous chances in the match and really just couldn't convert. And she looked really frustrated by it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on the first half? Things I missed? No?
Nope.
All right. So Sweden, I thought, again, I kind of touched on this earlier, but they needed more secondary runners or late runners into the box on crosses, with Chile, you know, easily cutting them out. I thought that they needed to have more of that. Skies absolutely opened up in the 55th minute. And then the next thing that I noted is the 72nd minute lightning delay. And then I lost track of time, or I flipped over to Fox because I thought that that's where the match was going to resume. And then I wasn't notified that the match came back and ended up missing the rest of the game. But luckily for me, we have Matt here who did follow. So from the 72nd minute on, Matt, kind of what happened? Thoughts?
Well, the funny thing was I left it on, and then I went and did some stuff like clean the kitchen and whatnot. And because they said, oh, actually, I went out for like a quick walk and whatnot. They said it was going to be 45 minutes. It came on earlier. It came on sooner. It was on much sooner. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Like Sweden's Asllani is their kind of their star scorer, but she had kind of an interesting match. I remember watching her. She kept complaining to the ref about getting fouled. The ref wasn't calling fouls. They weren't calling those. They weren't making those calls. But yet she kept going down and complaining when they weren't happening. And I almost thought that Asllani was partially taking herself out of the game mentally by complaining so much, because she had some issues. Like in the 52nd minute, she dribbled into pressure at the top of the box. She was coming in from the right side, and then she cut in, and then put her head down and went to go for goal. Now she had at least one runner. The broadcast said she had two runners wide open to her right. Now, there were only two defenders in front of her off to her right. So had she passed that ball out there, those two defenders would have transitioned to cover out to cover that pass out to the right. And then she would have had a lot clearer path on a one-touch pass if they had made it. So it was kind of interesting to watch this. And then I mentioned the when the rain started coming down, it was torrential. It was ridiculous. You could really see the players looked miserable playing in it because it was pelting. And you could Sweden at that point just looked like they completely lacked imagination in attack. So and Chile was just kind of like resigned to go, okay, this is terrible. But hey, at least Sweden isn't getting anything on us.
Yeah, and I noted actually with the 72nd minute delay, I thought that it was going to benefit Sweden because they looked unmotivated. They looked like they could use a break or pep talk, and they looked like they would benefit. And I posted this in our Slack channel that I thought that the break was going to do better for Sweden than I thought it was for Chile. And I think that ultimately ended up happening, but unfortunately I wasn't able to watch it. So I saw highlights of the two goals. Matt, did anything else happen other than the two goals, or do we want to talk about them?
Not really. What was an interesting thing was, they cut to the set, right? And then I cannot remember who the German woman is that they
Anga
have.
Hingst, I believe.
Okay. So she thought that it was going to benefit Chile to have the break because then they could, get some like defensive tactical discussion, get a break from playing bigger, stronger players against bigger, stronger players. Heather O'Reilly was like, no, this is gonna benefit Sweden. And then Kelly Smith also thought it was going to benefit Chile. So it was really interesting hearing this. And all I could think about was, one, I didn't know, but I was curious to see what was going to happen. It clearly benefited Sweden. They came out like a different team.
All right. Yeah. So that was good. So I ended up calling my mother to catch up with her. So I missed all of that analysis. So I'm glad I agreed with Heyo and ended up proved to be correct. 82nd minute is when Sweden gets their goal, and it's kind of from a broken play. And the ball eventually falls to Aslani, the girl we were talking about earlier, the woman we were talking about earlier, and she ends up roofing her shot with her left foot into the top left corner. She takes her shot very well. Matt, thoughts on this goal?
It was one of those crazy goals in the box. It came in from, I think, wide right. I forgot to note who actually initially touched the ball, but she just got it past the defender. It kind of trickled past the defender, and then Aslani just was, Johnny on the spot and just, like you said, put it in the roof of the net. It was really cool, actually. It was a great goal.
Yeah, it ended up being just a ruthless finish. And then later on, Janogy comes on. And, what is it?
J's are Y's, so Yanogi.
Yanogi comes on and in the 94th minute has a dribble through the defense, ends up cutting inside and just absolutely rockets the ball with her left foot into the opposite corner that Aslani scored in. But a fantastic goal in and of itself. Any other things? Any other thoughts on this goal or this game, Matt?
So that goal was fantastic. I don't know if it's because Chile was tired at that point, but Yanogi, when she got the ball, she was going to goal, and that was all she was going to do. I thought it was a bad decision because there were three defenders around her. She does a cut to her left, gets by the first three defenders. Another defender comes in. She goes by her. So that's four defenders. And then that's when she puts the shot up and then fires it past Endler. So that was a great moment.
Absolutely. So excellent performance overall, because at the end of the day, they got the result, right? That's all. That's all that it's about for Sweden. That one finishes 2-0. Any other thoughts on this match, Matt?
No, that pretty much sums it up.
All right, let's get to the USA versus Thailand match. And so what we decided, I mean, this was an absolute beatdown. World Cup records, 13 goals for the US, ends up 13-0. I think that it makes sense to talk about maybe a couple overarching themes, maybe a handful of goals, but overall, there's not much to glean from this match or breaking down the goals or anything like that. And so I did want to talk about some things. And so, Matt and I gave our previews yesterday. I think we both thought that the U.S. was going to come out and try to send a message and be very aggressive. And that definitely was the case. They came out right off the opening tap. They sent 7 players forward, knocked the long ball in by Dahlkamper, who has an absolute rocket of a foot. I mean, we have seen it feels like maybe 2 or 3 players on a lot of the other teams that have, long foots that can hit those long diagonals. I felt like the US had 6, 7 players who could hit those passes that I felt like a lot of other national teams don't have. Matt, I know you're more familiar with the women's game. Am I accurate with that assessment, or is that just something that I've seen because I haven't seen the other teams play?
So Dahlkemper, it's really her specialty that she can do that. Like I talked about yesterday, Julie Ertz is a much better passer than people give her credit for. Rapinoe's famous for being able to do that, even though she plays forward.
I thought Mewis and Horan could both do that as well.
Mewis is great actually at that. I think she's quite good at that.
Yeah, and so I was just impressed with at the just flexibility from the US's lineup and just how aggressive that they were. 5th minute, the US scores, but it's offside. Let's talk about the Ertz at center back. We skipped over that. So Becky Sauerbrunn came in with a minor quad issue, and so they didn't want to risk her in this. They said if it was a competitive match, competitive isn't the right word. A higher stakes match, they would have played her. Right. So they decided to go with Ertz, who was a center midfielder on this team, and not go with one of the backup center backs. What did you make of that decision?
So, I mean, it made complete sense to me that they would do this. And then I was going into the World Cup. I thought, no, you need to rest Ertz anytime you possibly could. But then I realized as the match went on that they pretty much were resting Ertz by playing her as a center back because there just wasn't much to do for the back line. It's intelligent, it's like take your opportunities to rest your players when you can. Sauerbrunn is a vital player on this team. She's, used to be the best center back in the world, and she's still very highly regarded and just does a great job. So yeah, let her heal.
And Ertz over backup center backs, you were fine with that?
Yeah, Ertz is such a leader that makes sense to me. I'm not even, who is the backup center back? I feel like I should know this and I'm blanking.
Matt, I was counting on you to know this information.
I can't remember who when I was talking, I was going, oh no, I can't remember who the backup center back is. I want to say
like Davison. Does that sound?
It is. Yeah, it's Tierna Davidson. Yes.
Okay. All right.
No, that is an interesting point. I think it was basically because Jill Ellis really, really, really values leadership, and Ertz is a huge leader on the team. She's passion, she's fire, and she is she's a good center back. She's just a better number 6.
All right. So fair enough. There's your insight there. U.S. gets a goal in the 12th minute. Rapinoe did well to drive to the end line and cut the ball back. It pops out to O'Hara, and I was yelling at my TV for her to hit it, and she doesn't hit it. And right. Luckily she didn't listen to me because she knows what she's doing. That's why she's at the World Cup. I'm sitting on my couch watching her play. Takes a fantastic touch out wide and ends up clipping the ball to the back post for Morgan to head it in. Right before this, I noted that this felt like the France versus South Korea game where South Korea was completely overmatched and was just knocking long balls, and it kind of played out there. Matt, any thoughts on this first goal? Let's at least talk about this one.
It was a great play. I wanted O'Hara to take the shot too, but what she ended up doing was so great. I did have a concern later though. There were 2 moments of confusion between O'Hara and Heath, where both of them momentarily were near the ball but didn't know. Both of them kind of pulled off it. So I'm wondering if that's kind of something that might be a moment of concern going forward, because that's something you don't really see with this team, where if you're both 3 feet away from the ball, who's going to get it? Well,
Yeah, as ridiculous as this might sound, I didn't think Heath was as impressive as I expected her to be. And maybe I just had unrealistic expectations coming into this, but I thought most of the other players I was impressed with. I don't know if she tried to do too much or anything like that, but Heath, I felt a little bit let down with her performance today. Is that a fair assessment or no?
Yeah, I thought she tried to take players on too much. She's had this problem with the NWSL. Portland Thorns fans, who adore her. She's a great player. I mean, it's really like splitting hairs by criticizing Tobin Heath. They've, up until about a year or 2 ago, people would complain who were Thorns fans about how she would take the ball, put her head down, and then try to dribble past everybody. And it seemed like she had a point to prove and then do that in this game. Hopefully she worked out some nerves but maybe that's why she came off.
Yeah. So then, 20th minute, U.S. gets their second goal, and this is a fantastic shot from outside the box by Rose Lavelle. I thought throughout the match, Lavelle was really impressive for me. She had this weird thing, or not weird, but really unique style of controlling the ball, and we see this with a lot of great players in the world. Messi's kind of famous for this, where he takes a touch and then he takes a second touch or third touch, whatever touch it is, but when you don't expect him to. So she had these balls where they looked like they were getting away from her, and you thought, it's almost like she takes a touch a half step before you expect her to, and she's just able to completely wrong foot defenders just by doing that. And I was really impressed with her throughout the match. So that's something I'm going to keep my eye on, because she was fantastic. She got 2 goals, and this one was a thunderbolt. We haven't seen a ton of teams do this, where they get opportunities from outside the box. And Matt, you called it out. You said that the U.S. was going to be shooting from outside the box, and they certainly were in this, and they were hard shots. I felt like even in the earlier match, Chile had a shot from like 35 yards out, but it was like those lofted. The U.S. was hitting driven shots that we didn't see from other teams at this World Cup. So I wanted to call that out. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, yeah, it's like the United States has 11 cannons on the field. It's really what it's like. It's got to be terrible to defend, honestly, and they're not afraid to shoot. You look at Sam Mewis, she'll shoot from anywhere. Lindsey Horan will shoot from anywhere. Megan Rapinoe has proven over and over and over again she'll shoot from anywhere. But as the team has matured, they don't take stupid shots from anywhere. It's like, oh, I have a clear lane. Okay, I'm 28 yards out. There's not a great pass on. I might be able to, skip some players. Let's have a go.
Yeah. So. Yeah, 27th minute, Thailand had their first period of any sort of possession. So that just kind of tells you kind of how the match was going. U.S. scores their third goal. And after that, they shifted to this 3-4-3, 3-3-4 formation in possession. And then by the end of the game, they were just in a straight 3-3-4 formation, which was interesting. Matt, what did you make of kind of the tactical experimentation that was happening during the match? Were you okay with it? Were you, did you want to see them just sort of close things out? Like, what did you make of all that experimentation?
So getting back to the 27th minute, one thing that I noticed was that Alex Morgan, she came back and then won the ball defensively. She ran back all the way back into her own half, tackled the ball from behind, and it was like a perfect tackle from behind. That's always great to see a forward have that kind of commitment to defending, especially against an inferior opponent. She didn't need to do that. Somebody would have stopped that shot. Now, getting to your question, it's kind of weird doing the tactical shifts, I think, with an opponent like this, because I'm not sure how effective it is. Like these opponents were such gimmies. This opponent was such a gimme and they were so demoralized that it's like the U.S. probably could have trotted out their U20 team at that point and then beaten them because they were so mentally beaten.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. I also wasn't sure how much they were actually getting out of kind of all these different tactical looks. And, when you're up even 5-0, let alone 10-0, what are you really getting out of these changes in formation? But I don't know, maybe it's just building confidence. So 40th minute, Lavelle had a ridiculous skill move. And so I wanted to call that one out. I thought that it was really weird that the U.S. was doing short corners and playing quickly when they were clearly, advantageous on the size front. And in the second half, they went away from that. But that was just something weird, interesting that I saw. And then second half starts and all hell breaks loose and the U.S. scores 9 goals. I'm not even really going to...
They scored 10.
They scored 10. Was it? I thought it was 3-0 at half.
It was. The game ended 13-0.
Oh yeah, Jesus! I forgot about the late goal for Lloyd. So all hell breaks loose. They scored 10 in the second half. A couple of things that I just wanted to bring up from this is that Lloyd came on and she's great because she's just so single-minded. It's not. She got anywhere near the box. There was 0% chance that she was passing that ball. And eventually she gets her goal. But I just thought, she is who she is and she doesn't hide it. And, it's fantastic to have a player like that who comes into the match and, team's already up, 8-0 at that point or 7-0, I think, when she came on and is still trying to get the goals. But any other thoughts in the second half?
Well, I was really surprised by how fast Lloyd is still. She made a run up the left side. to close to keep that ball in, and I went, whoa.
And then
Because
she
I
had the
didn't.
Meg, right after it.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yes, I know the exact play you're talking about.
And so she almost gets by 3 Thai players at that point, and then it gets close, but she wins a corner. But I did not realize it's like she's faster than she used to be, and I think she turns what, 37 this World Cup.
Something like that. I know she's getting up there.
It was I was like, wow. So
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that I thought that the U.S. was a bit open defensively, but
yeah,
I
I
don't I
agree.
don't know how much that really matters when you're up 10-0. But that was the only other thing. Obviously, congrats to Alex Morgan, tied a U.S. record. I don't know if it's a World Cup record, but she got 5 goals in this game. Do you know if it's a World Cup record or if it's just U.S.?
I don't know if it's a World Cup record. I know she tied Michelle Akers for the
Yeah.
most. Yeah.
Okay. I also thought, like, why on earth is the ref adding 3 minutes of stoppage time at the end of
Yeah.
that? What was that about?
Well, JP Dellacamera said the same thing in the broadcast.
Yeah.
And then Ali Wagner was like, hey, you know what? You have to add it because sometimes goal differential can make a difference.
I guess.
Yeah,
And yeah.
13 isn't enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess 12
Or
was enough
12.
because
Yeah.
Lloyd gets her goal, and I guess that's good. Anything else? Any other thoughts from this match, Matt?
No, I
Okay.
don't have anything.
All
It
right.
was
Let's
just a beat down. It was honestly kind of boring. I kind of hate watching a team get destroyed like that, but I hope that it helps them grow. I did see some of the players crying after the match and saw Alex Morgan talking with their forward. That was cool. Hopefully that will mean something to her and she's able to grow from that experience. But just getting hammered like that is not a good growth. It's not a good growth situation. It's too much.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good call out. And so we have a couple questions here from people joining us live on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, we record this live on YouTube. You can interact with us and become part of the show as we record. So first question is from Jeff Holt. So he said, do you think the U.S. will rotate starters against Chile in their next match? And specifically, do you think that they're going to start Press and Lloyd probably over, I guess it would be Heath and Morgan? What do you think about that, Matt?
So I was thinking about that during the game. I think they should rotate starters. I think they will, mainly because they can always bring somebody else on if they need to, right? The person that I'm probably most concerned about getting, rest is Sauerbrunn if she's got a knock, because she's going to be needed later in the tournament. I mean, I expect the U.S. to make it out of the group, so.
And then there's the balance there because we kind of saw this at the U20 Men's World Cup with Mark McKenzie. I don't know if anybody follows that, but
right.
is the delicate balance of how long into the tournament do you wait to give her her first minutes? Is she going to be rusty at that point? And so, but that's something to keep an eye on. I think that Press is more likely to start than Lloyd, and that's
Probably.
just that's my opinion. But I agree. I think you will see lineup rotation in that next match. Next question is from Sal Ortiz. Sal, what's up? Thank you for joining us. Do you guys see a problem with the celebrations from the U.S. team? It seemed like Twitter was divided. And so, when it's 12, 13 goals, did you have any issues with the U.S. celebrating the way that they did on all their goals, Matt?
So that's pretty tough. Alex Morgan was fairly humble I thought with her celebrations. There was, except for, when she scored her 4, she did the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when she got her 5th, she just looked surprised. Let's see. Mallory Pugh, that was her first World Cup goal. Sam Mewis, that was her first 2 World Cup goals. So there's unfortunately there are 5 more goals. After that, it's just like, I don't know who else had a brace. Somebody else had a brace.
Did Rapinoe have a brace? I know she got one.
She scored 1.
There were lots of goals.
I thought her celebration maybe was a little over the top. Because her goal was, it was a nice goal. It was a great goal, but it was kind of routine. I sort of don't have a problem with the celebrations, not because I want people to rub it in somebody else's face. It's more of like they're celebrating their accomplishment. That's the height of soccer. It's kind of like if they had all like entered the lottery and each one of them won $2 million in the lottery, would I, 13 of the 14 players who played won $2 million in the lottery, within 90 minutes of each other. Would I expect them all to like celebrate less because people around them might get annoyed? That's kind of how I see it. But maybe Rapinoe didn't need to celebrate so much because she scored a lot of goals before. But I mean, even Lloyd. So I don't have a problem with it, but I also don't want it to seem like the United States is trying to rub it in somebody else's face.
Yeah, and so I have no problems with this whatsoever. This is the World Cup. This is the biggest stage, like you were saying. You don't have a lot of opportunities to score goals, to play at World Cups. You know, this comes around once every 4 years, and there are injuries that happen. There's timing. There's other players that are better. And so anytime you can get a chance to score, I mean, you should be allowed to celebrate. And so I have no problems whatsoever with any of the U.S. players scoring here. Let's talk about our three of the days, I'll call them. So goal of the day, Matt, what was the goal of the day for you?
Oh, probably it had to have been the Netherlands goal, even though it wasn't like an amazing goal. It just meant so much to the team and going forward. So, I mean, really, I should pick out one of the blasters from the United States, but they were, they were literally a dime a dozen.
So I'm gonna take the Yanogi goal
Oh, for sure.
for Sweden. Even though I didn't watch it live, it looked really impressive on the
Great.
highlights.
It was great.
Yeah, and so that'll be my goal of the day. Matt, save of the day. You alluded to it earlier.
It was oh my gosh. Why am I shouldn't have closed my computer.
It was the Netherlands match.
Netherlands keeper, yes. Her second save, the fingertip save where she took 2 steps to the right and then just barely pushed it out. Yeah. So
the Gregorius, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, my save of the day is that Endler save on Sweden, where it's a double header on the corner and she gets down and the ball is, going in. And again, late reaction, saves it off the line and pushes it away from danger as well. I thought that was a fantastic save. Matt, what was your moment of the day?
Because I'm a fan of the United States, it's the United States' win and then making a statement. That's basically my moment of the day, getting a crushing win. There were a lot of doubters going into the World Cup as to how good the United States team is. I think this is a pretty amazing statement as to saying, hey, we're here. We're loud. You know what I mean? We're big. We're here to win. And 13-0 kind of says a lot about that. So
absolutely. Yes. I'm in agreement. Not match of the day, moment of the day. I forgot I just wrote MOD and I was like, what the hell does M stand for? Moment of the day. I'm going to have to say the 40th minute drag back and then nutmeg by Lavelle. I screamed, oh my God, when she did that. And I know it's against a weaker opposition and, they're balling at that point, but that was so silky and so smooth. And just the defender was going down. She was trying to make it. It just looked so ridiculous and so quick. And, I thought overall the US was probably the most flair team that I've seen at this World Cup. They, other teams have a handful of players. I felt like so many players were doing step overs, and yeah, it's against that opposition, but I just felt that the US was so clean and was quick with their moves. I felt like a lot of the other national teams tried to do moves, but it was almost like not necessarily slow motion, but it was just slower, where the US, whether it's Crystal Dunn or Tobin Heath, struggled with it a little bit, Lavelle, like they just did moves very quickly and were just by defenders. And that was impressive. And this one specifically stuck out as my moment of the day. Any other thoughts, Matt, before we talk about tomorrow's matches?
No.
All right, let's get to tomorrow. So tomorrow, Wednesday, June 12th, day 6 of the World Cup, we have Nigeria taking on South Korea at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as our first match. Then we have Germany facing Spain at noon before France takes on Norway in the match of the day, in my opinion, although Germany-Spain should be a good one too, at 3 p.m. Matt, let's start with Nigeria versus South Korea. What are you expecting from that one?
Well, one thing I have to say is I'm looking forward to 3 competitive matches. The teams seem like they're all evenly matched. Every single one of these matches means a lot to the standings in the group. So I'm excited about that. I be honest, I don't really know that much about Norway or Nigeria. I love the Nigerian kits. Those things are fantastic. So that makes me want them to win. It's such a goofy, I should be embarrassed that that's the way it is. But I thought both Norway and South Korea both had excellent moments in their matches. So I'm hoping that they can build on it in some way. So
interesting.
I don't have a lot to say about it, really.
Okay. I did not think South Korea had much going for them against France. And meanwhile, Nigeria didn't either. And so I think in Nigeria, I would favor a little bit more because I couldn't even recall very many players from the South Korean team that made an impact, whereas Nigeria at least had a handful of chances, specifically the winger. I want to call her Ergun. I don't remember her specific name. Ortega, not even close, Dave. Ortega. I did happen to open to the exact page I was looking for, though, so that was pretty impressive for people watching on YouTube. So I would give the slight edge to Nigeria in that one because South Korea just did not impress me. Not that Nigeria was incredibly effective, but I thought that they played somewhat even with Norway till they started to fall apart. South Korea looked like they weren't even in that match. So I'm going to give the edge to Nigeria in that one. Matt, what do you think is going to happen in Germany, Spain?
Jeez, I have no idea. This is a really difficult one to pick. Spain, I feel like, should not have had the difficulty that they had with their match. I understand why Germany had the difficulty that they had with China. However, Germany looked just uncreative. Against, like, they just didn't have any answers. They didn't have any solutions for when China lined up that way. No, I think that playing against Spain, Germany's going to have more openings because Spain is a bit more offensively minded. So, but I really have I don't know.
So based almost strictly off of my pre-World Cup predictions, I have Spain coming through in first, and this was the game that I predicted that they would surprise the world in. So I got to stick with my girls in Spain here. The two things that I am looking for from Spain are the two Garcias that were subbed in the South Africa match, really unlocked their potential, and I want Nahikari Garcia. So both of them were named Garcia, so I can't just say Garcia. So Nahikari Garcia, who was the center forward, came in and it allowed Hermoso to drop back and play more as an attacking center midfielder rather than the false nine because she was drifting all over that match. And I thought what it did was vacated center forward space. And so when Nahikari Garcia came in, it allowed Spain to have a center forward presence and Hermoso to really be effective. And Lucia Garcia. Okay, two E is there. I thought I wasn't reading that right, but no, it is Lucia Garcia. She came in and was a fantastic flank player, and she stayed wide. And Spain just needed to have players staying out wide. And so if those two are starting, which I hope they are, I don't know if they will be, but either if they're not starting, I hope they come in and they make an impact early, and Spain gets a shock win. So that's what I'm predicting in that one. And then our final one, the one I'm excited about both these games. But what do you think is going to happen in France versus Norway?
So I would like to see a Norway win here. One, because I'm reading the national team by Caitlin Murray. It's a history of the United States national team, starting way back when, I believe in like 1985. One they used to call the Norway because they lost to them in, I think, the 1995 World Cup, and so they referred to them as the Viking bitches. I thought that yeah, Julie Foudy actually said that on a podcast that I was listening to as well. It was so, I don't know. I think France is the United States' biggest adversary. I know the United States is not going to pull the foot off the gas pedal and then go through their group in second. I would really like that matchup to not happen in the quarterfinals. I'm being totally selfish here. I would like it to happen later. It would be better for both countries if it did. So I want Norway to win. I want Norway to go forward. I do think France is the better team. I think that they're incredible. However, they are vulnerable in the back if they get complacent, which they are prone to complacency because they're so good.
All right. So that's what to look out for. Before I give my thoughts, I completely forgot to mention this in the Germany match. Marotzen broke her toe and is out for Germany the rest of the group stage. That's going to have a big impact for them. And she's had terrible injury luck. And I just feel for her because it's been rough where she's had all kinds of different issues. And I think only played one match at the last World Cup. So you got to feel for her. And I think that might have an impact on Germany. In the France versus Norway game, I'm just excited. Both these teams had fairly dominating performances. I think that it's going to be a stiffer test for France than South Korea was, and I'm interested to see. Norway has some players that can play. Graham Hansen, I'm really high on, and I'm interested to see how France responds to maybe getting punched in the mouth a little bit because they didn't have any of that happening against South Korea, and it'll be interesting to see if pressure gets to them. And anyway, having said that, I expect France to prevail in that match and still be on the collision course that Matt was referencing earlier in the quarterfinals. Before we wrap up, Matt, player to watch out for tomorrow, someone who you're really excited about, someone you wanted to highlight?
Go ahead. I forgot who I said.
Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead first. And it's the player I was just talking about before, Graham Hansen for Norway. Caroline
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Graham Hansen. And so she was someone who I thought was so silky smooth on the ball. I thought that she was, am I still here? Matt, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You
Okay.
frozen in terms of
Okay,
video.
so
there.
I'm just going to keep talking here, but Graham Hansen was so impressive in 1v1 situations, and then on top of that, I thought that she made the right decisions on when to pass the ball, and so I was so impressed with her performance against Nigeria because unlike Tobin Heath, who we were mentioning earlier, who has great 1v1 abilities, Graham Hansen made the right decisions on when to release the ball and release it with the right weight on her passes, and so I was really impressed with her performance in that first match, and so she's who I'm going to be looking out for tomorrow. Matt, who are you going to be looking out for?
I'm going to be looking out for the center back, Wendy Renard, the center back for France, because basically that defense is going to go how she goes. She has the entire toolkit to be the best center back in the world. Now, Tom Sermani for New Zealand, apparently refers to Abby Urseg, who plays in the NWSL for North Carolina Courage, as Virgil, because he calls her Virgil van Dijk. Apparently the whole team's picked up calling her that. Abby Urseg had a great game today. I thought she was fantastic today. Now, Wendy Renard had a couple of loose moments where she was too casual. Yet she put in 2 goals, because she's so great and so dominant in the air because she's the tallest player at the tournament. So she's probably my player to watch out for. She should be an amazing center back. But, maybe if she takes a couple plays off, Norway might have some chances there. So,
all right, there's a player to look out for from Matt. There's my player, and that is the end of our Day 5 recap. We thank everybody who has joined us live on YouTube. Thank you to Jeff and Sal for interacting with us, for the questions. We record live on YouTube. Just a quick reminder, right after the match is finished, come hang out with us over on our Bros Talking Soccer YouTube channel. If you liked what you heard here, please leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews help the most, and so do that. If you want to follow us on Twitter at BT Soccer Pod or send an email, bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com is where you can do that. Come join our Slack channel, hang out with other soccer fans and chat. We got about 40 people in there talking about all different kinds of things. And Matt, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Sure, it was fun.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for being here. Also, check out our website, brostalkingsoccer.com. Forgot to plug that, but that is it. We will be back with another podcast tomorrow. Matt, hopefully you're joining me again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Week.
All right, Matt will be here all week. Get excited. I'm excited and excited for match week 2. I guess group 2. What is that called? I guess day 2 of the group matches. I don't know what the hell. You know what I'm trying to say, people. We're excited for the World Cup, and we'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody.